chocolate slice cookies. Once you've got that skill down, we'll move on to tart au chocolat. This is a French bistro classic. After that, you'll be ready for the advanced application of warm chocolate orange tarts. And then for something pretty and fun, I'll show you how to make piped chocolate garnishes. But let's start at the beginning with that basic chocolate pastry dough. And it is very much like making a cookie dough. I've got half a cup of soft butter here. And into that, I'm going to sift half a cup of icing sugar. This makes a nice soft dough to start with. Now I'll just beat this until it's smooth. And what I'll do now is separate 3 egg yolks. And by not using whole eggs, that's another step contributing to a very tender pastry. I'll just beat these in. And I'll sift in a cup of cake and pastry flour. Cornstarch is really a pastry chef's trick. A couple of tablespoons can really take a nice pastry into just that ultimate tender pastry. Next, half a cup of Dutch processed cocoa powder. The last thing, half a teaspoon of salt. And then I simply mix this until it's blended. And I'll spoon this onto a sheet of plastic wrap. And because I'm going to use this particular batch of dough to slice cookies, I want to shape it into a log. And I use the plastic wrap to do that. So gently roll back and forth. This has to chill until it's firm so I can slice it, and that can take a couple hours. You can also freeze this dough and then just pull it out, thaw it in the fridge before you slice and bake. I have one that's already chilled down. I slice the dough directly from the fridge. And I make slices just 1/8 of an inch thick. I have my baking tray lined with parchment paper. These are ready for the oven. I've preheated it to 325, and they just take about 12 minutes. I can smell the chocolate. There, beautifully done. And they're just so pretty and nice and tender, but I like to add a finishing touch to them. And I'm dusting just half the cookie with icing sugar. And there you go. A simple chocolate cookie slice from that basic chocolate dough. And it has that beautiful snap to it. A bit of a crunch, but it's tender at the same time. It bakes into a buttery, shortbread-like crust. And you've seen how it works with a chocolate slice cookie. So now you're ready to move into tart au chocolat.
Oh, you're asking your...
And it starts with that same chocolate pastry recipe.
How much?
$9,500.
Must pay upfront.
Yeah, see.
You can roll this pastry.
Is CLP under Malaysia or UK now?
Malaysia, always under Malaysia.
Tart au chocolat uses this chocolate pastry as a base to
You
hold
think
a
you can only get
sinfully rich
second or what?
chocolate ganache style filling. You serve it cold,
Why? The result is
so you
out.
need to pre-bake the crust before
Yeah.
you add the filling
I mean,
and
your
bake it
degree is
again.
out already.
Yeah.
Is it?
The
In
result.
rolling the
So fast
pastry,
one, ah?
I like to use
What? You
short,
should know how
small
much.
rolling motions and keep
What do you
turning
mean I should know? I
the
don't
dough.
know.
Yeah, like, you should know lah. I mean, how much?
If you find, as you start rolling the pastry, that you develop a crack that just won't adhere together, the easy way to fix it is just take a little bit of soft butter in your finger and rub it over that seam where the crack happened. Then roll the dough up again, re-roll it, and you'll find you won't get a single break in your chocolate pastry.
No,
Next
get,
year lah.
no, get the first stage first. Get the application form.
It's just shy
If you
of a
think that is a
quarter-inch
stupid
thick,
degree, why should I go ahead with it?
and now I have a 9-inch
You cannot even
fluted,
get a
removable
stupid
bottom tart.
Why should I have to go?
You
I
apply
put a little
first.
sprinkle of flour in the bottom. I slide the tart shell under, lift the dough over
Don't go out. Don't go so much.
Stop it.
so you can feel
Unnecessary.
the flexibility of the dough as you're working with it. You know it's going to bake up tender.
If it runs, it shakes. You don't even
I just
want it.
simply use the rolling pin
Never eat enough.
to trim off the dough.
Oh, I think so.
That way you get a perfect, flawless edge to the tart.
I know.
Before I put it in the fridge, I'm going to dock it. That way, any air bubbles that may form as the tart shell bakes will escape, and actually, the holes will fill in and bake together. Because the tart is now soft, I must chill the dough down. It takes about 20 minutes to reset the butter.
Stop it.
Hey, the car. All
I
jammed.
have one
I thought my
already chilled, so it's ready for the oven, just like this. I've preheated the oven to 350, and this takes about 20 minutes to bake. I'll let that cool down. And I have one ready that's already fully cooled. I've got bittersweet baking chocolate. If you can find 70%, that's a nice, strong, dark chocolate, which suits a dessert like this. And I have heating half a cup of whipping cream and a quarter cup of butter. And by pouring this over the chocolate, I'm creating a ganache. I like to stir this mixture gently at first to slowly introduce the two different ingredients together. Chocolate's looking good. Time for a quarter cup of sugar. Balance out that bittersweet chocolate. And then part of lightening up the base is to add additional liquid. In this case, half a cup of hot coffee. Okay, beautiful. Now that I've added more liquid, I have to set it up with something. A couple of eggs. 2 whole eggs. And I like to break them in a separate bowl and just give them a little stir with a fork. That way they blend into the chocolate far easier. Just a gentle whisking, and then the last addition of a teaspoon of vanilla. And there we go. I'll pour this over my cooled baked crust. It only takes 12 minutes in the oven. So you can see why we had to bake the crust first, because that took a full 20 minutes in the oven. And we we go, 12 minutes, just barely set. I'll let that cool completely. And then it goes in the fridge for a good 2 hours to set up the chocolate. But I'd like to show you a trick for getting those perfectly clean slices of your tart au chocolat. Take hot water. If your tap water is hot enough, you can use that. And this trick works for chocolate cheesecake as well. What I do is drop the knife into the hot water for a second. The metal will heat up. Dry off your knife before you make the first slice. So the warm knife half melts and half cuts the beautiful tart. Look at that beautiful, silky interior. Lightened up with that touch of coffee, so it's not too heavy, not too dense, but coordinates with the beautiful tender texture of that chocolate pastry crust. Get that